welcome to the next episode of the Fill Your Cup podcast. I am Caitlin Reaver, and today with us we have Shaniya.
Hi.
So Shaniya is someone I met through Gen Y. We kind of started around like the same time-ish. I'd gotten involved with Jordan, the CEO, like a couple months before, but I couldn't actually like join the team until later on. I think we kind of started around the same time.
Yeah.
So me and Shaniya kind of started Gen Y together. But yeah, introduce yourself. Tell the people all the things.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaniya. I am 25 years old and I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. I say that with a little bit of hesitation because I'm from Norfolk, but my family, extended family, is from Florida, so I'm really from Florida.
She's like, do I know? Well, did you say you lived in North Carolina?
Yeah, so there's a lot of places.
I was like, wait, what? Am I totally making it up that you lived in North Carolina?
It may help if I just kind of dive
Okay,
back.
yeah.
So my family is from Florida, and my parents are military, so they were stationed in Virginia, and that's where I was raised.
Okay.
And then once I graduated high school from Suffolk, Virginia, I went to college in North Carolina.
Okay.
And so then when I graduated from college in North Carolina, I moved to Oklahoma.
So what brought you here?
Wow. In short, Jesus. But with some more context, when I was in college, about my junior year, I always been raised in church. Let me say that. I've always been raised in church. My mom is been a woman of faith her entire life, so she raised us to learn the character of God, learn relationship. But it wasn't real for me until my junior year of college, when I realized for 3 years I have been doing life without God, and I was just living in the worst way, very manipulative, very promiscuous, and just like too involved with the things of the world. To put it in short, we can talk about that if need be. But then my junior year comes right before COVID hits, which is crazy. I realized like I'm 20 years old, and like I don't have a personal relationship with God. And it dawned on me in like this moment where I was just very low and in my room by myself. And then from that moment I was like, I'm gonna just try to fix this. I'm gonna try to get back in right relationship with God. And the last thing I could remember about the Bible was something I saw on VeggieTales. And so I'm thinking of all the God is bigger than a boogeyman songs, and I'm like, it's not gonna be.
You're like, so can that carry me through everything?
Right. I'm like, I have to do something a little bit more intentional. And so my idea at the time was to get on YouTube, watch sermons. And so I just started looking up sermons, and I found a church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the name of Transformation Church.
Okay, yeah.
And so now I'm in North Carolina over the next couple of months, like binge watching sermons. And at the time, it's the way I'm getting fed, or like getting actual context to the story about Jonah and David. But what I didn't know is like God was orchestrating a much bigger plan. So after about a month and a half, I'm like in my junior year, like, I don't know what it is, but once I graduate, I feel like I'm supposed to be in Oklahoma. And God, if you figure out how I'll get there, I'll go. And going into that summer, going into my senior year, I end up getting an internship that I didn't plan for. And the internship was with Amazon. They offered me a full-time job and told me to rank which state I wanted to go to. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, ooh, okay.
Oklahoma, I guess. I think I was serious about it. And so I actually moved to Oklahoma, and now I've been here for 2.5 years.
Wow. That's so cool, though.
Yes.
Like how he kind of like just formed that so well.
Yes, and it was.
So are you living in Tulsa, like near Transformation?
Okay. So I moved to Oklahoma City. My job, I thought they were going to send me to Tulsa. That was going to be my bright idea. Like, I just go to Tulsa, I go to their church, and then my life will be there.
You're like, I'm good.
Yeah. But instead of moving me to Tulsa, they moved me to OKC. And so I've been here since I first moved. And now I'm staying in Edmond, where I go to school.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess, well, I'll get into that in a second. But, I want to ask, okay, there's so many things that I wanted to ask you. But Something that I love to do to like kind of start off all these episodes, I feel like it's just like kind of gives it that nice place of like consistency, because fill your cup for me is so important, because whenever I really dive into purpose and what that really means for everyone, I feel like it really comes down to like, what do people find joy in, and like where are they finding their fulfillment in life. So for you, like where do you find that, whether that be in like the Lord or your environment or like things that you do, like where are you finding your joy?
Being able to just pour back into kids that may be going down that track that I was going, or don't know where they're going, or just need some help kind of finding their worth or their value, or even their relationship with God, because that's where all of that stems from. I love being in a space to be what I needed. And I have since working at Amazon, have resigned as of February this year to pursue that full time, and so my cup is being filled in so many different ways, and I'm grateful.
That's so cool. So where are you? Do you get involved with youth through like teaching, or like what does that kind of look like for you?
Okay. Well, there's a couple different avenues. I have a couple of different plugs. Right now I serve as a program coordinator at a nonprofit called the Bridge Impact Center. Okay. It's on the east side of Oklahoma, and the sole purpose is it serves as a youth center, but is non-traditional in all of its ways. Okay. And so basically the students that come to the Bridge, they have an opportunity to come to a place that's safe, where they're valued and they're poured into. So I set up different programs for them, whether it's culinary classes, martial arts. We have a slew of mental health groups, like a grief group that we call Grow With It, or Wellness Wednesday, Therapy Thursdays that are led by different licensed therapists and things like that. And for them, getting involved with these different programs by choice, we give them incentives. Like we have this thing called Bridge Bucks. So if you go to a martial arts class, you may get 15 Bridge Bucks, and you will earn so much. Kids are earning up to like $1,500, and they can take those Bridge Bucks and buy actual items. They can buy sneakers, they can buy cell phones, they can buy bags of chips if that's what they want. But it is our way of pushing them to explore, because you never know what will fill your cup unless you try it. And so we try to give them those options. So that's one way.
That's so cool. I don't know if I even like had heard about that. That's actually amazing.
Yeah, the CEO is Marcus Jackson. Okay. And his wife Shakira Jackson is the one that she's a licensed therapist, and she's the one that kind of runs the mental health segment. So it's beautiful to see not only are we wanting to get them active, but we're caring about their mental well-being and showing them at a young age that these things are important. Yeah. And it comes with, you can get your Cheetos, you can get your sneakers. There's kids that buy iPhones. But it's also really good because it's like, being that it's on the east side, a lot of these kids need this. Like this avenue. Some kids won't get new shoes unless they are like doing this or bringing their grades in. We pay them for good grades too. You have a thing called J's for A's, and so if you bring in your report card, and even if you don't get A's, but your GPA improves, or you're bringing something, you will get paid for that. And that is kind of bringing hope to some kids that otherwise wouldn't feel seen, wouldn't get poured into in that way. And so I do that, and I love it. I'm also involved with Gen Y, and Gen Y is like, I just love it. I'm still trying to find the words to describe.
It's hard to like, whenever I explain it to people, I'm like, there's so many different aspects of it, but it just like works so well,
and it's so beautiful. And so I like, when I try to describe it, I'm like, I'm like, I explain it, but it's like, it's so much cooler than what I'm saying right now. But what we do, is travel across the country, across the state, talking to students about finding their purpose, breaking the stigma of mental health, knowing their why, and just being the vessel that tries to come against the statistics of like suicide and depression and how kids manage that.
Yeah.
And so we do that in the creative way, dancing, spoken word, art, all things creative.
Yeah.
And the people are amazing.
Which I feel like that's something that I value so much, because since Gen Y is so like creative based, I guess that's probably not the right way to say it, but like creativity based, like everyone on the team is like coming from so many different walks of life, and I feel like it's such it's such a safe place. Like performance. I was even talking to Chase the other day. Chase is another member on the team.
Chase is great.
Yeah,
on Chase.
We love Chase. And I was like telling him how I'm trying to find like new avenues for dance, and just kind of like just being able to have, growing up as like a competitive dancer, it's very like business almost, and more like I've just been working hard to like refine like why I love it, and like finding again like the purpose in that, like where do I find joy in dancing. And he was telling me, he was like, yeah, like you could come take classes with all of us. He was like, but like you could teach us too. And I was like, well, I don't know, like I was like, I feel kind of like I don't know, I feel like I don't really fit in, because I feel like so many people on the team has grown up like in this more like street dance type of vibe. And I was like, I don't know, like I don't want to be like the odd man out. He said, no, we all just love dancing. He said, we'll learn from you, you can learn from us. Like it's such like a community based, like it's such a safe place.
And I think we're similar in that way, because when I came into the group, I kind of had that same, like, I don't know if I fit in here, because I'm not a competitive. I've never been a competitive dancer. I've never been trained. Like, I just like to dance.
You're just, I like doing it.
And it's a gift. Like, I'm good at it, but I've never had that intentional point in time where I'm like, I took one ballet class and that's all I've done. And so when I came in and I see everybody's like, you know, hip hop stars.
And then you got like Jaden and Chase, and like literally everyone.
Dancers. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm supposed to dance with you guys.
Whenever I'll watch like Jaden or Chase or even like Kira and AK like start like improvising in the corner with like their earbuds in, I'm like, what? I'm like, this is sad for me.
Well, what is so beautiful is that, like, the same way Chase responding to you is the tone of the group. They're like, come in, like, you can teach us, like, what do you want to do? Like, they encourage you. They helped me. A lot of the first dance I remember learning, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this, and I didn't want to ask for help, because I'm like, they're gonna think I'm so silly for asking how to do this, and I sucked it up and ended up asking for help, and they all just like slowed it down, helped me, and I'm like, okay, this is a safe place. I can be whatever kind of dancer I am. Here.
Like it's literally no worries at all. Like it's so, I feel like it shows like how much our culture has changed, like just like do things on your own, or even like I think it's so cool that you're like pouring into kids, because a lot of the times kids are left on their own. My family fostered for years and years and years, so we had a lot of experience with kids that like were really coming from nothing, and it was like weird for them to have that like support. And in the same way, like I've like grown up in a very safe place, but even going into a culture like that, like I don't know, like I feel like I can't, like I feel like I have to be good, I feel like I have to be exactly right, and they're like, no, like you can make mistakes, like you can just make mistakes here,
and you fit right, you fit so well within like the puzzle of Gen Y. So I can't wait to take a class.
I'm excited. I'm glad. It'll be fun. Yeah, maybe Gen Y's, well, we just decided this the other day, but Gen Y's kind of starting like a dance class-ish thing we got going on. And so I don't know, maybe we could do that.
Yeah, that'd be a start. Weeks. Gen Y, what I love about Gen Y is that it propels us. So when I came in at first, I was just like, I'm just here to help.
How did you get involved again?
Yeah, so what happened was in February I quit my job, and my friend Stu, who I'm really close with, he does photography for Gen Y. Stu is plug on Stu.
Can we take a moment for Stu?
Can we talk about Stu really quick?
Can we just take a moment for Stu? Because Stu is probably one of my favorite people in the whole world.
First of all, moment of silence for Stu. Now let me tell you why he's great. Stu is the funniest person.
Shania's about to go off.
I am. I'm gonna ride behind my brother. But he's like the funniest person on earth, and he cares so much about people. Super sweet.
He's like,
but
he's just like a warm hug.
Stu is comedy gold. He doesn't have comedy gold. He is comedy
and
gold.
it's just like that. It's like a very like underlying. Like he'll say things. I'm like, I heard you, Stu. It's so funny. And he's also like Jordan, like very quick on his feet. So it's like you don't see it coming, and it'd be something like you didn't expect, or his like him doing his impersonations. Stu's great. So Stu has been talking to me for a while about Gen Y, but because of my work schedule, I could never come. Things are always like on Wednesdays. You know how it tries to be scheduled, and I worked on Wednesdays. So I couldn't make the Wednesday stuff either. That's why I had to join later, because I was like.
So I'm like, I would love to see what it's like, but I can't come right now. And so the week I quit my job, they had something in the city, and usually they're traveling, but something was like whatever they were doing was very close. And so I'm like, I'm here. So it's like, I really just think you should come. And so I pulled up, I walked in the gymnasium, and I saw where they were setting up, and I just started, like, I went to the soundboard, and I'm like looking at stuff, and then Jordan comes. I'm like, I'm just like, my name is Shaniya. I want to know how I can help. Like, what do you guys need help setting up with? And so I kind of watched them do the whole thing, and then afterward, I'm like, it's like one of those moments where you're like, like God knew that you were walking into it, but you didn't know.
Yes.
So I'm like, all these kids. Yes. Julian's up there. Plug on Julian.
We also love everyone. We love everyone.
Let's just say that. Okay. Julian was talking about purpose, and so it's my first time seeing what they do, seeing the dancers, and I'm like, this is cool. And so from that moment, I just like got connected with Jordan, and I just started traveling, and then I learned dances, and I started dancing. But this is what I was saying about like the propelling, is I was going as a dancer, but I never had the intention to grab the mic.
Right.
And so by the time like you came in, maybe a month and a half later, that was my first day actually speaking.
It was so good too. I remember hearing you, and I was like, oh, this is good. Like, she's here for this.
Yeah. And so it felt like wow, like divine orchestration.
Yeah.
Like, and then to be with people who are also kind of like new in this, but challenging themselves and pushing themselves to do like new things, is like, okay, this is a safe place to learn and grow. Yeah. So now it's been months, and we're still rocking,
and it just feels like a family now. Like, you go on one trip, and it feels like your family.
If you make it to Chick-fil-A,
you made it to Chick-fil-A. I remember there was, I think it was the day we were out in like Ada.
Ada was fun.
Ada was fun, but people were so tired by the end of that trip. And I remember there were like 3 people in the back of the van, and they just put their hoods up, and they're like, I'm not talking to anyone. And if anyone came in, like, we kept making stops because Jordan and Julian were trying to make all these connections with all these different people, and the whole group was like, get in the van and take us home. We're ready to go home. I just need my food.
What's funny about it is every time we do an assembly, it's not that we only want to go to Chick-fil-A, but it's after every assembly, nobody else has a good enough idea.
No, it's not good enough.
But everybody is also like, I'm sick and tired of Chick-fil-A, so I sit there every time, and I just watch it happen. I'm like, okay, Jaden's gonna say he doesn't want to go.
Jaden's gonna say he doesn't want to go. Julian's like, well, he'll be like, get all moody, and he's like, there's nothing else I would like.
And Jordan's gonna say, well, if you guys could give me another option. And so I just kind of watch it, like, go back and forth, and I'm like, yep, we're gonna be at Chick-fil-A, but it's gonna be a good time. So if you join us with Gen Y,
then you can get some Chick-fil-A.
You make it to Chick-fil-A, you're locked in.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah. It's definitely, I feel like Gen Y is just such a beautiful God thing because there's so many students that, like, again, it's so hard to explain, but and I've talked about it a little bit on some other episodes, especially the first episode I had was with Jordan.
Okay.
So we talked about it a bit. But for anyone who doesn't know, Gen Y stands for Generation Y. It's a nonprofit organization, travels across the country. And like Shaniya said earlier, it's literally working to break the stigma surrounding mental health, specifically for students.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because, like, mental health is such a big buzz right now, but, like, I do not see people taking actual steps to, like, make a difference. And I feel like Gen Y is doing actual things. And these students, like, they are going all over the place. You have kids, like, from private schools that are reaching out. But then you have kids, like, in diverse, like, in the middle of Oklahoma City. Like, our classes at John Marshall. Like, and you have these students who come up to you and they're like, I've never even, like, heard people talk about that before.
Right.
And that's so, like, that's just so cool. And I feel like they're just getting started. I told Jordan that a while ago. I was like, you guys are just getting started.
What I think is also beautiful about it is that when we go, we pack up the van, we set these things up, and to us is like nothing is routine, but we go and we set these assemblies up. But what we don't realize is that this is a pillar in a lot of these kids' lives. Like, they will remember the day that we came because nobody is talking doing assemblies, let alone on mental health.
Yeah.
Like, they will remember these moments. And after our assemblies, we don't just pack up and leave and don't say anything, but we actually kind of stick around
talk to them.
Talk to their students that
I get taken aback when schools don't let the students like come and talk to us. I'm like, oh, I thought we were gonna like hang out.
This is the point.
I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's kind of how people kind of handle mental health anyway. Like, when you think about on a large scale, it's always like, I'll post about it. Like, it'll never escape social media. Like, I'll post it on my story, but if somebody actually needs to talk, like, do we lend our ears? Do we like give people shoulders to cry on, or just make space for them? And so what I love that we do is, as we are loud, is like, we'll stick around. And there's plenty of students that have come and told me, like, thank you guys for what you do. Like, I was just battling this. Or Jordan has told us before that there's students that were literally contemplating taking their lives, and the timing that they experience what we do as an organization, like, counteracted that decision that they're gonna make. And so I just think that it's so cool because it's not like we're just going and dancing and having fun, but people lives are being
changed. And I feel like it makes it so much more. I was talking to Bella on the last episode we just did about, like, how important it is to just be, like, real and raw, because it's so much easier to, like, connect with people because of that. And I feel like whenever we just bring, like, our goofy selves, like, whenever Chase or Jordan will start, like, playing music on the soundboard, and we're all, like, just, like, jamming out, like, as the students are, like, filling in, they already see that, like, we're comfortable. And we're still comfortable even whenever we're talking about our struggles, because I feel like everybody's, like, you start to hear some of the team's stories, like, every single person, and you're like, good Lord, like, you've been through it. But then it's also like, but you've been through it, and you're just like this, you don't dwell in your story, but you take your story to the next level for other people. And that's so special about Gen Y, because everyone takes their time. Everyone's still struggling. We're all still people. Like, sometimes people need to recoup after assemblies. But they're still giving their all for those students. And I think that's so special.
Yes. I know we keep talking about it.
But it's a good thing to talk about.
Another thing that I love is that, like you said, everybody is going through something different. Everybody is coming from a different background. But none of us look the same either. Like, we create a safe space for people of all walks of life with the same mission to come in a place. And those goofy times where we're just laughing and things, that has personally done a lot for me, because I can something about like intentionally growing spiritually can sometimes make you take life a lot more serious than it has to be.
Yes. Like, it feels more... I can get in a way of, like, just getting serious.
Yes.
Like, it's good for me to do, like, to be with everyone who's just, like,
and I feel like that's helpful, you know?
Yeah.
Maturing is going to require you to do that to some degree. But I feel like it's helpful to have spaces where you don't lose your identity, but you can relax and you can laugh and you can realize that, like, I can enjoy these moments without, like, holding myself to this like
standard of a person,
of being stiff and rigid, and you can just have fun. And so that's what Gen Y has personally done for me, because it's really easy for me to, like, put myself on the chopping board. I can be so critical and be like, well, you shouldn't have did that, you shouldn't have laughed that hard, you shouldn't have made that joke. Like, but Gen Y is a safe place. Like, nobody is super critical of you for being like this religious or this spiritual or this spiritual. Like, there's no, you can be you can be yourself, and
it's just a space to grow.
Yeah, and I love that. You don't find that too many places.
No, you really don't. Like, I think that's why it's like I joined, and it's such a God thing that, like, it kind of for you too. Like, I literally it's kind of funny. I was working at a coffee shop, okay? I was working 1 day a week, one shift, because I'm so busy that that's literally the only time I could work. And they're very low key, and they'd already had a bunch of people, so I, like, kind of, like, just helped fill in on. It was like a morning shift every Thursday, and so, like, I was barely really there. And that one time, Jordan and Stu came in, and they were like, you know, they ordered, and I brought them their chili and coffee or whatever. And Stu had all of his camera equipment, like, out on the table, and he was like, "You like content creating?" And I was like, I was just coming to give you your coffee, but, like, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And it was just then, like, I started talking to them, and then 6 months later, like, I was at an assembly speaking.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
amazing.
It was real. Like, the one minuscule time that I stopped work. I had already had plans to leave that job anyways, just because I couldn't take it. Like, I tend to overload myself.
Oh, I know that song.
So, yeah. And I realized that after, like, Christmas break, I needed to, like, step away from that job. And so it was, like, right before Christmas. Like, I was about to leave that job, and they'd come in just that one time, and, like, then all, like, kind of fell together. And it's just, like, it's almost like, it's interesting for me, because at times I've still been uncomfortable with being comfortable. Yeah. Like, to just, like, relax. And, like, it's not that deep, you know?
Same. Yeah. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to uncover, like, where it all comes from. Because, I didn't say this. I'm going to school to become a marriage and family therapist. And so I think, I'm like, where did this come from? Yeah. You know? Yeah. What phase of experience did I, like, have growing up to where, like, this just being comfortable is a task that you have to learn how to do. So
yeah. Well, and I think that's so cool too, because to have, like, actual therapists, like, on the team will be so special. Yes. That'll be so special.
Yes, I'm excited about that. And Jordan is excited about that. And
Jordan's really excited. He's, like, talked to me about it. Like, he's really excited about it.
It's basically like he's just waiting for me to get the degree, get all of the accreditations. Because he's like, he's already saying, like, when it's time, you know where to come. You know where to be. And I'm like, Jordan, I have 9 months of school. It's like...
You're like, you gotta give me a minute.
Give me a second. But he's, like, on my head, and I love that. Because it's like to me it's like there's a space for you, there's a, you know. And I feel like that's another great thing about, like, how they're just present. Like, y'all were in a coffee shop, and they were just present enough to,
they're just, like, present with you, like, they'll listen.
They weren't just like, okay, we're at this coffee shop and Stu has the equipment out and somebody's bringing me their stuff and we're just gonna continue the conversation. They invited you in, and then it turned into this,
like, everything that this is. Yeah. And it, like, all worked together so well, because even my involvement in the Miss Oklahoma teen organization, like, that's why Fill Your Cup is what it is. It stemmed from that because we all have like a passion project basically that we work on, like a community service initiative. Wow. So there can be things from, people talk about things from basically anything you could think of, whether that be, heart problems or, homelessness or, anything like that. So Fill Your Cup really came to be because I had that push to start something. Yeah. But then I kind of took it running because it's so much of my story. But then Fill Your Cup, then Gen Y started getting involved in my life. Then Fill Your Cup is working so well with Gen Y. Man. And then then I hear Julian talk about purpose and all these things. And then I can go up and talk about my story. It's all these things that just fell together so well.
And let me just say, I feel like Fill Your Cup is a great initiative. What you're doing, and for you to be your age is so inspiring to see how passionate you are, how you even how you steward what you have and how you pour into people, how present you are when we're even just in the meeting on Sunday. I was just looking at you wow, she's so great. You add this light. You add this light, and I hear that about myself. And so when I see it in other people, I'm oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
But for you to be your age and doing this is inspiring to me, because it's girl, do what's in your heart to do.
Yeah. No, yeah. I've never felt because I'll go into interviews specifically for Miss Oklahoma stuff, because at every competition you're at, whether that be local or at state, you have a 10-minute interview where you can basically talk about anything. And a lot of times people ask me, they're okay, so what's your purpose? Because you talk to everyone about purpose and all these things. And I'm honestly, my purpose is this. My purpose is sharing my story and giving that inspiration. Fill Your Cup is that, and not putting purpose in a thing, not to put purpose in Fill Your Cup specifically, but it's just a vessel. I feel and I feel that's been really cool to see, because and I talk about this all the time, but I just think it's so amazing how people can come across a Fill Your Cup page. I will have people that I knew that follow the page and stuff, but then I would go look at the analytics and it'd be reaching in 6 months it had told me that it reached 20,000 people. Wow. Across the country. And I was that is just so cool. And I never would have had it. And then I'll hear people I think that because I had started off with just short videos, kind of that reel or TikTok, and people kept asking for more content, and that's kind of what made me want to start the podcast, is because I was I want to be able to actually get into a conversation. And I will hear, sometimes I think that my videos don't do very much, and I'll talk to someone. She was oh yeah, your video about panic attacks, I was showing that to all the people at my work, and so and so was struggling so much, and this taught him how to handle his next panic attack. And I was that's I wouldn't amazing. Even I was that's just so cool. So I guess on that note, kind of where, obviously you've been all over the place, you do so many cool things, but I guess a kind of twofold question is in what things do you find your purpose, one, and then this just came to me while I was talking, but how have you persevered through mental health and stuff like that, kind of those deeper moments of your life? It's a very loaded question.
It is,
but I feel that's so special, because I feel that's created you, who you are today.
Okay. That is a great question. Those are great questions to pair together. And so to answer the last one first, I would say some of the moments that I've had to kind of push through as far as mental health have definitely been depression that has resulted from the burden of shame. Because I talk about that experience in college where I was just doing whatever I wanted when I came into a relationship with God for real, I was left with my track record. I was left with my memories and friendships that reminded me of the things that I did and the places that I've gone. And it was very difficult for me to see myself outside of my mistakes or see myself outside of my circumstances. I would look even further to my childhood and like scrutinize like what I didn't have, what I did have, the person I was, and how I could have been better. And I really got into this place where I was just, again, very self-critical, couldn't see myself for who I was or who I am in God. It came with a lot of anxiety in friendships. I didn't know how to treat people. I didn't know how to love people because I didn't know how to treat or love myself. And so that sounds like, you know, vague and broad, but that really put me in like a dark place where I couldn't even function in like the capacity that I'm doing now, or, you know, I couldn't really function.
Like, it's hard to even focus on anything.
Yeah.
It's almost like everything feels like, I so get like you talking about like that almost seems so vague, but like it's almost like there's this world of like scrutinizing yourself like for your past or things anything like that you can't change. And it just feels like
like I would never I remember thinking thoughts like I would never be able to dig myself out of this place because I wish I could change things and I can't. And that is a really difficult struggle, even to this day. Being a new creature, being a new creation in Christ, and all of the things that come with accepting relationship with God, I still struggle to, like, when something happens, it may not look like the craziness that I was doing then, but something may remind me of that same feeling.
And it feels like you're almost back.
And I'm like, I can't escape this. Like, I've given my life to the Lord. I've been baptized, and I'm still dealing with these thoughts. Yeah. And what I realize is that is the thing that I have to, like, we all have a thing. That is something that I have to use when it comes to purpose. Yeah. And so as it pertains to purpose, I really feel like God is putting me in a place where all things will be working together. So this experience that I've been so ashamed of, and I want to close the door. I moved to Oklahoma low-key to go, to like, but remove also yourself, so I'm not in that same environment. And like, nobody knows me, nobody can pull up my past unless I tell them, and so I won't tell them. But now I'm in a place where like God is wanting to use all of that for these kids, for these little girls that may be also growing up with not knowing their worth because they're not hearing it from a healthy place, or
like, you're the person for these kids that you wanted. Yes, that you needed.
Exactly. And so that's why I feel like my purpose is something along the lines of mentoring young women, helping them grow, helping them to see their value, helping them to develop authentic relationships with God. And right now it looks like serving, like being at the assembly, speaking, being a program coordinator. But I can tell even in those moments that girls, young ladies are drawn to me. And so as God continues to work these things out in me that I'm still very practically like dealing with, he's gonna put me in a place where it's gonna become very like more and more intentional of like, that's the purpose, like mentoring, showing them the light, because I was in a place where I thought that I would never be able to stop doing these things. I would never be able to be anything but this, and to sit here talking to you is like, the little girl in me is like feeling loved, and like everything
like,
happens
it's
for
like
a reason.
So full circle.
Full circle.
Yes.
So.
That's so, just like listening to you, that like takes me back so much, because it makes so much sense that the Lord has like put it on your life to be a mentor. And I love that you said specifically to young women, because I remember, because a lot of people on the team were like, Jordan would be like, oh, like, have you met Shaniya? And I'm like, oh, like, not yet. You know, I had only gone to like one other assembly by that point. And I was like, not really. I also couldn't remember anyone's name. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I have. But then I remember when I met you for the first time, And you didn't like necessarily, you didn't like, I mean, we were just like talking, I'm sure. I don't really remember like exactly like the moment, but it wasn't like anything out of the blue where you're like, let me take you under like my wing.
Here, come under here.
Yeah, like come here. But I remember like after we set up for an assembly, we had like an hour. Like we had gotten there pretty early. And we were waiting on stuff, and I found myself just like sitting next to you, and you were telling me a little bit about like the stuff you were studying and like the stuff that was happening. And I went home that day and I was like, Mom, I met this girl named Shaniya, and she was just telling me all about her life. And I was like, it was like such an inspiration. And you started talking about like ministry and therapy and all those things. And those are huge things that are in my life.
Yeah.
But I hadn't met someone closer to my age but still a mentor that was like actively doing that. And so like even in that moment, like I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm sure like Mom can remember I came home that day and I was like, this girl is like just so cool. Like she's just like this super cool role model.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because
Yeah.
I'm in this phase where like God is pushing me to do that. So to hear you say like that was the experience you had, to me is like,
and we had barely like had it. We were just like chatting because you know you like
Right.
linger and just chat with people on the team, whoever's standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, like I'll just go sit with Shaniya, and we like talked for like 30 minutes.
Yes. And that's beautiful. And that's why I say again, like to be present with people and just give people space. Because in that same conversation, I remember even when you talked when we went to Ada, I believe, and you had your
my crowning session.
I'm like, this girl is so cool. Like she's so beautiful, but it's not just an outward thing. And so like I see how genuine you are. Like before I knew all of what you were doing, because that was our first time meeting, so the crown and sash was new information to me. And so I see how genuine you are like before all of that, and it just makes me like, again, it makes so much sense when I see like what you're doing now and how you're impacting lives of people that you haven't even met, you know, at this age. It just makes me like so grateful, because you think about the times where you didn't think that you were going to do this, or I'm sure there were times where you didn't think podcast was in your lineup. Yeah. And so like to know like all of these steps were like leading up to this, and this is not even the greatest thing.
And this is not like I just turned 17.
17 is crazy.
Yeah. Like it's just so crazy. Like I would have never, like, whenever I started high school, like, I like, started to, like, sophomore year, just because of relationships I had with people, I became very insecure. And I, like, developed a very intense social anxiety, because I was already dealing with panic attacks by that point. They're a huge part of, like, my story. Yeah. But I started to deal with social anxiety specifically, and it was, like, kind of new territory for me, because I wouldn't necessarily maybe other people would say this, I wouldn't really consider myself like a bubbly person, but I'm just very like, I feel like more just like joyful, like kind of genuine. Yeah. But I've never had problems like talking to anyone. Like before my mom got married to Adam, my stepdad, I was like 5 years old, and I was having conversations with like adults as like a 4-year-old.
I can see that.
It checks out. It checks out. So I like never really had problems with that or speaking up or being that person. But that year, I remember I got so like, I would think if I went to lunch with someone, because like, you're with your friends, and like we'll on like lunch break, like we'll like have a new lunch date that day, or go with a girlfriend or something like that. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, crap, what am I gonna say? Like what am I gonna say? Like what the conversation might end, like there might be this like lull, like I don't, like what if they think like I'm weird, like what if I make a joke that was just like, oh, like that should not have said that, right? Or I'll be in classes, and then I would say something that was very me, but like going into a high school, it was like kind of this culture of like, you want to be the same as everyone else. Yes. So I would say something very me, and then everyone would kind of like stare at me, and I was like, ooh. shoot, you know.
High school is so funny in that way. Everybody's like, you're being yourself. Cut it out.
They're like, okay, like, bye. And I was like, oh, my bad. I remember I just told, like, for me, like, with my best friends, I'll be like, you are so beautiful. Like, you look so beautiful, you know, and all these things. And I remember sitting next to a friend at school, and, like, I'm like, you look so pretty today. And the whole class turned around and stared at me. And she was like,
that is crazy.
She was like, that makes me uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
It reminds me of that part in Monsters, Inc. where that monster had the sock on his back. Yes! And everybody's like, we gotta get him. And I'm like, guys, it's a sock. I just think you're pretty.
Yeah. No, yeah.
That's high school.
Yeah. There would be so many moments. So then, like, after that, like, I had even gone to a dance, and, like, it was like, you know, in high school, like, everyone puts that, like, pressure on it. Like, I literally wanted to go with friends. The dude I ended up going with, I had only thought of him as a friend, but then, like, all the girls around me are like, you know, and I'm like, no. And then I'm thinking, like, crap, like, what am I going to say whenever he picks me up? Like, I was just having so much anxiety about the littlest things, but it was, like, crippling for me. Like, I just wanted to stay at home. And to now be like, I'm like, okay, like, who have I even heard of? Like, not even just people that I know that I want to be on the podcast, but I'm like, who have I heard of that, like, yes, like, I made a whole list for, like, just people that I've heard their name and I know their story because of, like, how big of an inspiration they are to people. And I'm like, yeah, like, I want them on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I would have never done that 2 years ago.
Right.
A year and a half ago. Yeah.
And so it's beautiful to see even where you're going. Like, I'm honored to be able to say, yeah, when she was 17, I will always have this video. I will always have this video for proof, first of all. When we are both fully, like, enmeshed in what God has for us to do, we will both look at this moment and, like, yeah, at the little age of 25 and 17, we were doing this. Yeah. And it looked different for both of us, but what is growing into will be so, monumental. Yeah. Because we said yes to, like, one, advocating for ourselves, being ourselves, and finding spaces where we can be cultivated and nurtured. And so I'm excited. This video is going to be so good.
It's going to be, I'm really excited. I know. We're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like that covers, like, so many things. But just in the way of, like, anything else that you maybe want to say, your hopes or anything like that.
No, not really. I'm just thankful for the opportunity to get to say speak about my story, because every time I do it is another level of healing, another level of confidence added to, like, me. And so thank you for giving me this space. Yeah. And again, I'm just excited for the person that you are and, like, how you will continue to touch lives and creative ways. And so I'm excited to see what this turns into.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, I'm really excited, like, to be here, like, in your life too. Because even the fact that, like, the Lord is obviously shining through you, because even my mom was like, you need to make sure you get Shaniya on the podcast.
Plug her your mom.
Yeah, Mama Sherry sit in the corner.
So last
plug. But yeah, well, keep up with Shaniya. Follow, I don't know, like, what's your Instagram?
Oh yeah, I guess that is important. You can follow me on Instagram at Shaniya Alexis. So that's SHANIYALEXIS on Instagram, Shaniya Witcher on Facebook, Shaniya Alexis on TikTok. I'm on
She keeps it Alexis for the more casual things.
Yeah, you can follow me on all platforms. I am looking to actually start a podcast very soon. So YouTube, other things.
Yeah. Maybe some stuff coming in the works. But yeah,
that's me.
Well, thanks, girl.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for tuning in. It was super. I'm actually really happy about the episodes today. They, like, brought me so much joy. But yeah, stay tuned and fill your cup. It's on YouTube, Spotify. I think we're getting on Apple Podcasts. So all the things. But yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.